Basketball is back, ladies and gentlemen, and I couldn't be more fired up. And on today's show, we're going to be diving into an official Chicago Bulls Oklahoma City Thunder season opener preview. My name is Patrick Seatman. Welcome into the Bulls Report. And speaking of the season opener, we're going to be live here on the channel. We went live for a couple of preseason games, and it was a ton of fun. We do some live play-by-play, have a couple of drinks. It's overall a really fun time. But hey, this Wednesday, we're going to be going live 30 minutes before tip-off, so make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. Stay in the loop of all Bulls news and rumors and whatever it is around the Bulls, but make sure you guys also tune in 30 minutes before tip-off. This Wednesday night, Bulls Thunder in the United Center. Couldn't be more excited. But we're going to start off today's show diving into just the Thunder side of things, and then we're going to go over keys to victory and all of that. But overall, getting to know the Oklahoma City Thunder, listen, it's a superstar-driven league, so a lot of this is going to be very, broad and basic. And, listen, it is the SGA show in Oklahoma City. He is the focal point. He is the catalyst of that offense. And last season, he was just absolutely fantastic for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, he legitimately averaged over 30 points per game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. From that standpoint, while also being legitimately a very efficient basketball player, he also shot 34% from downtown last season, and he is a true superstar. Like Oklahoma City, you have your number one option, hopefully that can make you eventually become an NBA champion. And SGA, he deserves that treatment. He is a superstar, kind of that top 10 player in the league, whatever you want to rank him, but he is a unreal player, and he kind of has this slow, smoothing back game to him. Like, he just plays at his own pace. He can get to a spot, hit his turnaround jumper. I just overall love his game. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls guard him. I'm assuming a lot of Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, and Javon Carter to obviously try to slow him down, but he's an overall superstar. Excited to see how the Bulls try to defend him. Then they also have another, not superstar, but he's a hell of a player, and that's Chet Holmgren. Out of Gonzaga, born and raised in Minnesota as well. Listen, I think Chet Holmgren, an overall NBA kind of media or NBA kind of world terms here, I think he's the biggest X factor this season because I do think the Thunder have a really solid roster, and if he could be that true second option for SGA with the other guys around him like Jalen Williams and, Josh Giddey and the crew, I think, listen, with what Chet Holmgren could mean to that basketball team, overall, I think he could be a huge X factor for the entire season, and he'll be a huge X factor this Wednesday night, and we'll get into, but I'm curious to see how Vooch and Chet will kind of attack each other. Then number 3, they got some athletic wings. They got some elite wing defenders, mainly Jalen Williams. I'm a big fan of Jalen Williams' game. Listen, he reminds me a lot of kind of like I don't want to call him like a poor man's Jaylen Brown, but kind of a younger Jaylen Brown, very similar in that. And listen, also you got Lou Dort. These are two great wing defenders, and they're going to obviously try to give Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan a ton of trouble. I expect both these guys to be guarding LaVine and DeRozan most of the night. That's just some overall kind of basics on the Thunder. They ran by SGA. He is their offense. They run it through him. Then they add in Chet Holmgren, and then obviously you got guys like Giddey also who play a big role in their offense as well. But it's going to be fun to see these two wings play and to see how the Bulls kind of match up with them. But before we dive into some keys to victories, I want to ask you guys, who do you guys have today? Or tomorrow on Wednesday? Do you guys have the Chicago Bulls type B, or do you guys have the Thunder type T down in the comment section? Let me know if you got the Bulls winning this Wednesday night. Keys to victory for the Chicago Bulls. Number 1, you got to have a good Zach LaVine game. You got to have a Zach LaVine heat check game because, listen, we know who he is as a player. He's got the hills and valleys to his game where some days he looks great. He drops a 40-burger in the first play-in game, just like he did last season. Or he could have a game like another play-in game where he is inefficient and he can't really get anything else going. But I do want to make this point with LaVine. If you are going to have a Miami Heat type of game from him where he's 15 points, 6 of 21, bring something defensively, bring something as a leader, because I feel like Zach LaVine is just if his shots are falling, he's a net positive, but if shots aren't falling, he's a net negative. He needs to get to the point in his game where if he isn't hitting his jump shots, he can still a positive player for the Bulls. And listen, we know who he is at this point. This is his 10th season in the NBA. He could go have a heat check game where he drops 40 and the Bulls probably win, or he could have a bad game where the Bulls most likely lose and he's 6 of 21. I want to stop with this hills and valleys of Zach LaVine. Let's find more consistency where if he is not hitting his shots, he's still an impact player for this basketball team. I got 4 more keys to victory for you guys coming up in a second, but I do want to give a shout out to Prize Picks, today's sponsor of today's show. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS, use the code CLNS, you'll get a $100 deposit match. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Instead of battling versus thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stat types, and place your entry. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. They also have season-long projections already for the Chicago Bulls. Last chance to get these in. I'm going to take the more on Zach LaVine, 25.1 points per game. Going to take the less on DeMar DeRozan. Then I'm going to take the more on Vooch rebounds per night more than 10.9. So make sure you guys get hooked up at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use that code CLNS. Make sure to put that link for you guys in the comment section and the description of today's video. Listen, it just makes the games a ton of more fun to watch. You guys will love it. I love it for sure. Make sure you guys get hooked up today. prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. Number 2, in terms of key to victory for the Bulls, we got to get aggressive Patrick Williams. Listen, we know who P-Dub is as well. Some days he'll have these games where he is downhill, getting to the rim. He's using that quick first step and that overall athletic ability. He looks great. Then they'll have the other side of things where he's not aggressive and he's passive P is what we call him in Chicago. But listen, last year, in terms of what he did, he was incredibly efficient, shot the 3-ball well, thought he was a very good to great defender at the wing spot. But listen, if we're talking about his preseason game, he was very up and down. Like, he had a game where he was downhill against the Nuggets where he had 20 points. You know, he's making a ton of moves. But then he also had another game, I believe it was the Raptors game, where he just went inept and he just did not shoot the basketball, and we saw the passive Patrick Williams. If we want the best out of this Bulls offense and the best out of this Bulls team, it's number 44, getting downhill and just playing with an overall confidence. Number 3, I want to talk about Vooch versus Chet Holmgren because I think this is an extremely interesting matchup on both sides of the floor. I honestly think both of those guys can get the better of each other defensively. Listen, I think Chet Holmgren, he's going to be a great defender in the league. But in terms of what Vooch does well, being a back-to-the-basket big, making one move, putting his shoulder on you, and getting to his hook shot or his patented fadeaway, like, Vooch should have the advantage on Chet Holmgren. But in terms of Vooch guarding him, it could be a long day for Nikola Vucevic. Chet is just so fast. He's so skilled on the perimeter, and he has just a ton in his bag. So it's going to be fun to see how those two will kind of match up to each other. But I actually do think Vooch could potentially get the better of him in this matchup just because of Vooch's, he's a grown man. Chet Holmgren is still a very young player in this league, but I'm excited to watch that. Number 4, the defensive identity for the Bulls. If the Bulls are going to be any sort of a successful basketball team this season, it starts on the defensive side of the basketball, or defensive side of the floor, and it starts with this backbone and these 5 guys. We saw it a lot in the preseason. I actually loved it. They were running a lot of Javon Carter, Caruso, and Ayo all on the floor at the same time, and then actually Patrick Williams and LaVine, a very small ball lineup. Going to be interesting to see if Billy Donovan goes back to that, but listen, you got 5 guys who I believe in as defensive players. Will come together as a whole. The Bulls were 5th in defensive rating last season. Obviously, that was with Patrick Beverley, but if you add in Torrey Craig and Javon Carter, I think this team could, be a very good defensive team. You're going to have to make up for not having a true rim protector because obviously we know who Vooch is on that side of the floor. But also, speaking about Javon Carter, Torrey Craig, I think the new guys, I love the addition of these 2 guys. I mean, listen, they're not big-time pickups by any means, but the Bulls need to address 2 things this offseason. They need to address the 3-point shooting, and they need to address the point guard spot. I think they did that with these 2 pickups. I mean, I love Javon Carter. Obviously, Chicago kid. He was picking dudes up full court in the preseason. I absolutely loved it. Obviously dating back to his Press Virginia days. Also, Torrey Craig. He is a pretty damn good defender. I'm not saying he's a great defender, but Torrey Craig, I think both these guys are just guys who will get the Bulls better on the margins, where they'll just be a little better in catch and shoot, a little better defensively. So I'm excited to watch these guys play. Bulls have overall, I think, a pretty good team. Just going to come down to continuity and how this big 3 still gels together. Hey, maybe Kobe White. Maybe he'll finally take over as that Lonzo Ball replacement in Chicago. We'll have to wait and see. But to conclude, I'm just happy basketball's back, man. I mean, listen, I love the NFL. I love it. I love, the MLB playoffs and everything, but nothing fires me up more than basketball being back. So I'm happy. It's going to be fun to watch. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they're a fun, up-and-coming team, and obviously this is a big year for the Bulls, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So make sure you guys do tune in to the watch party. We'll close it with this, though. How many games do you guys think the Bulls are going to win this year? The bookmakers out west put the Bulls over-under at 37.5. I don't know. I'm probably right around 40 or something. Obviously, it depends on what they do at the deadline. But let me know, how many games will the Bulls win this season? And also follow me on Twitter at Pat Seeps is the handle. Put that link for you guys in the comments and description of today's show. See y'all next time. Thanks so much for watching. Go Bulls.